somewhere. He was. Raise your hand, Kenny. There he is. Oh, he's in the store way in the back. Yeah, so that's how David met me. He said,
On the phone, they think I'm a woman. All right, I got notes. Let me tell you about David Berry. I love David Berry, and I think he loved me. I tell you what, I think I've been thinking about this. I know all you guys, these last few days, I have thought of so many stories, so many adventures, so many moments, and I just keep coming, shit, I did that with David. You know, I called somebody, Larry Gilly this morning and said, Larry, were you there? And he said, no, I didn't make that one. But those adventures with David, you know, and I'm honored to have grown up with David Berry. And I've been thinking about this over the last few days. I think I met David when I was about 14 years old. And he lived only 4 blocks from me. And Tom Thumb Raceway was in between us. You could walk to Tom Thumb Raceway. And that's where we hung out. We raced slot cars. You know, all right, all you slot car dudes, okay? 1965, our team went to Austin, Texas and raced the Texas State Championship, okay? And I'll never forget, we walked in this big place, had, 5 different tracks in there. And we looked at the track that the races were being held on, and it was an American 150, the same track that was right there at Tom Thumb that we put thousands of laps on. I said, David, we got this one. We got this one. And I'll tell you what, we made it to the finals. I was a hit man. I could knock a guy off 3 lanes away from me. And still got fifth. I do it on go-kart too. I still got fifth. And I think David might have got third. He podiumed that day. It was an awesome adventure. I'm getting chill bumps right now thinking about it. You know, remember one day David said, hey man, you gotta come see this. And he took me out to Dogwood Hollow, the reservoir, and these guys were running around on motocross bikes, roosting and just raising cane. And I said, I gotta have one of those. And so I bought a little bitty Suzuki 90 with a hop-up kit, and I guess he somehow got one of the cars that his parents had. This was the largest car that was ever made. It was either a Buick or an Oldsmobile, but the trunk was big enough to put that motorcycle in. We could go out to the Dogwood Hollow, the reservoir. We took turns riding that little Suzuki. Well, we ended up, I tell you what, we got on some good bikes, and not that wasn't a good bike. If we'd go to me, David, and Lee Bryant, we'd roll into a motocross race, and when they saw that orange van roll in, they pretty well knew we were getting the hard way, you know. So just one good story though. We went to Mexico and raced Cinco de Mayo, which was a 60-something mile enduro. And I'm telling you, there was cactus. We rode through you couldn't even see 8-foot, 10-foot cactus. Water crossings, I know, that were 3 foot deep. And, well, anyway, all these obstacles. Well, we take off. David starts a little in front of us. There's 5 riders at a time taking off. And I come up at mile 16, and the Mexican army with machine guns are stopping the event. Halt. Return to camp. All right, so we go back to camp. Well, David made it through before they were caught before the set. He got to finish the event. All right, so we're waiting around the camp and still got our boots on. David shows up, okay? And a pickup truck with I bet it had 12 little Mexican kids with shoe shine kits. And they're all running around. They come up. Shine your boot, mister. Shine your boot. 1 penny. 1 penny. I said, all right. He shined that one boot. The next boot. Shine your boot, mister. $1. Well, anyway, David and I shared that story a bunch of times. But You know, talked about music. First time I saw ZZ Top was with David Berry. All right? Nobody even knew who ZZ Top was. I mean, they were early. I saw, with David Berry, ZZ Top in Caldwell Auditorium. No, they were still going back. They were ZZ Top in college. The first time we saw them was in a bar downtown Tyler, and I can still remember where that bar was, but I'm not sure who they went by at that time. But we had a hell of a time. I know that. I think I wrecked my car going home that night. But we saw Pink Floyd. David, he was this adventure guy. He was my adventure mentor.
Mentor.
The first time I went to Colorado was with David. First time I went to California was with David. You know, he was the best men. He was one of my best men in my wedding with my beautiful wife, Ricky, back there, and very tolerant woman.
Good job on that, you win.
But anyway, he was one of my best men. He and Lee were my best men. Well, his friendship shaped my life. I mean, truly, I wouldn't be the person I am today without David, because he was a loving guy. He loved me, and I loved him. One more quick story, and I hate to take all the time here, but we were out wood riding one day. We were raising hell, jumping stuff, roosting each other. Running into each other. It's a wonder we didn't kill each other. Well, anyway, I had this tremendous unload. I telescoped my right leg. Okay? My leg was a little shorter, a little crooked, and very uncomfortable, by the way. And David was the first guy, I can remember this right now, who grabbed my hand. And he said, "Tyler, you okay?" But I can still feel that hand. Of course, they got me back in the truck. David was a wonderful friend and an adventure partner. And I've been thinking today, and I'm getting chill bumps again. Man, he knew God. God knew him. Thank the Lord. But what an adventure he is on today.
Amen.
We've been on some great adventures. I know I'm gonna ride with him again now, and that meant the world to me. When I met David, I guess I was in junior high, and we all rode and raced together. And if you were at the place where everybody went to ride at, the best you could hope for on your best day, all you could hope for was maybe you could keep up with the dust of David Berry, Tyler Simpson, Lee Bryant. That's just the best you can do about it. But the cool thing about it, when they stopped, they always had a tip or a kind word for us entry-level riders. It made us who we are today in our racing and everything. Watching David ride, he was fast, smooth, calculated, and he was just a treat to watch him get on that motorcycle, and it inspired all of us. So it was, one story I want to tell about David is we all were riding one weekend, and right after we got there, a guy that I rode with got a little boo-boo on him and wanted to go home. Well, I didn't have a ride home, so David, Jim Johnson suggested, "We'll give you a ride home." So I stayed, I rode the rest of the day, had a great time. It's time to go home now. Anybody do David Berry does a little black Toyota truck? I'm going to emphasize the word black, little truck. We got our bikes in that truck, got all our gear loaded in there, and then we got in. Of course, David drove, I got in, and Jim was next to me. David struck that little plastic console about that wide, and I got stuck in the middle. 2-hour ride home. It was so tight that David drove, I shifted. And every couple of miles I go, "Hey, can we stop?" No. "David, let me drive." No. "Jim, trade seats with me." No. And it was, I'll never forget Dave's console in his truck. It was a long ride home. But hanging out with David, like Tyler said, he was our adventure guy. Boy, we had some adventures in my life. Me and David was, we got the roommate there for a while. We were both single, and we roommated for a while. We had many, many good times. And at my house one night, we had a birthday party for Teresa's cousin Christy. And after that night of the birthday that David met Teresa, you could tell these two were destined for each other. They were, it was a sight to see. And Teresa, I admired you and David so much. Y'all are my best folks, best friends. And know that all of us are gonna miss him forever. But I'll ride with him again.
Talking about following David through the rest of the work. When we was kids, we'd go out there and watch Tyler, Lee, and everybody ride out there, good pro riders, and they'd always take off and we'd follow them. We'd follow that dust trail through the pines, to the Dogwood Lake, the sandbar, the triangle track, and finally we'd be back at GE Hill, on the Ant Hills. Everybody remembers that road out there? Yeah, I can remember being a little kid on Indian Trail 50, going out there. Never could make it up the hill, but at 10 years old, that was, seemed like about 2 miles high, and about straight up and down for me. It was so tall. And I can remember trying to go up there on this little mini Trail 50 and couldn't make it, and I was about ready to turn around and go back down the hill. And here comes somebody stumbling down the hill. It was David. He come running down there, got me on the bike at 10, helped me up this GE hill, and that's the way David was. He didn't want to leave nobody behind. You know, he'd help us out. And when we followed the dust trail through the woods, you know, David said, "Well, Mark, you made it." And I said, "Yeah, we made it." And years later, I got a 250, and we went riding out there with me and David, and he said, "You lead through the pines." So I led through the pines, made it back to Dogwood Lake on the sandbar, and David showed up, and I said, "David, you made it." He said, "I followed your dust trail this time." And for me, that was the biggest thing Mike could ever tell me. I was just coming from David. And, but now when we ride again, we'll be looking at his dust trail and find him again.
Amen.
We'll find him.
Yeah, I told him to say this spot on the start line, way on the outside.
And I was real lucky, and I can't speak, y'all.
I want to tell you, hey, Jason Black has been in our family for so many years. Just a motocross champion, rallycross champion, super good friend to all of us. That through our racing career, it was always a special event when David come to the track, because he always had a kind word for all of us racers and encouraged everybody to do good.
Tell us about Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. And what kind of meat he ate over there.
And, you know, he silicone that motorcycle. Do you remember? Does anybody remember? I was 10. Might have been 9. How old? Yeah, that motorcycle, all the pieces. He wasn't just competitive on racing, he was competitive on making things perfect. And it had to be perfect. And he taught me so much, you know?
All of us.
And then we just become so close over that. And I'd love to tell you, everybody.
We had good times.
Yeah, no, we'll never forget all these memories. Come on, guys, it ain't that hard. Still love him and love all y'all too.
I'll say something. Most of y'all don't know me. I grew up with Randy. Met David when I was probably 11, 12 years old. Outside of my father, there's only 2 men that I've kept in touch with throughout my life that have had a huge impact. And I remember thinking at 10, 12 years old that David was the coolest man that I've ever met. He was the only guy that raced motocross that I knew. I wanted a motorcycle so bad. Couldn't afford one. We didn't have money. I didn't start riding until I got into my 40s, and that's what caused David and I to reconnect. And he loved anything that went fast. So throughout the years, we would send each other racing videos. Most of his were slot car or the sound of an F1 car. just a sound clip of an F1 car. He loved anything that went fast. So when I started riding and racing, he was kind of living at that point vicariously through me. And man, we could swap stories. Love that guy. Hate that he's gone, but I'm always happy today in a better place.
Well, my name's Billy Hibbs, and condolences to Teresa and the family. I go back, like several of you, a long way with David. And I first became aware of him at the motocross track out at White House. And that was pre-Swan days. And he was about the coolest, fastest person I'd ever seen in my life, because he was smooth. And by the time we got to Swan out there, he was a pro. I mean, he was actually getting paid. And, you know, if you're 13, 14 years old, that's about the coolest thing you can ever imagine in your life. And so David and I, we stayed in touch through all that. By the time we got to the mid to late 70s, we were riding street bikes together. We used to go up to Talamina Drive and spend the night up there, a couple of nights. And David was so competitive that up there in those, what we call the twisty turnings on that route, you know, he was always ahead of everybody, and it was everything we could do to, you know, risk our lives just to try to keep him inside him, because he was so fast. Later on, I was in charge of a bunch of little boys in the Cub Scout Den. It's called Lucky Den 13. These boys were from all walks of life that looked just like America, and I knew that he enjoyed slot car racing with the rest of you guys that got up here and talked. And so I asked him if he could get us into Chris Tanner's place over there. We could teach these little boys how to slot car race. And you can imagine how much fun they had. I mean, it was one of these deals where I think I wore them out, calling Chris back, saying, "Hey, Chris, can we, you know, do another deal? And David, you know, y'all get over there and help us, you know, corral all these boys." And it was so much fun to get to introduce them to slot car racing, because David was just so patient, and he just loved all the kids and everything. And then finally, later on in my life, I needed a really good tire guy, and David was the best. And he was able to not only would he make house calls and come over there and help me and figure out, you know, some kind of it was listen, it was a mutual respect association, because I had no idea what I was doing, and he did, and he could always solve problems for me. But and I know y'all know this, but he you know, he would take the tires himself, and I'm like, David, you know, Bill Day's got a lot of very competent people down there that can, you know, change these things out. He said, no, I don't want to take the chance that, you know, a rim gets skinned up or something, so I'll just do it myself. And I'm talking about up until like this past year, he was up there with him, and I was watching him, you know, on that tire machine up there changing. Apparently, he worked there so long, he has rights for life. And so, you know, when he walks in the door, everybody, you know, does this or that. But what a great friend, and what a loss this is to the community. And again, the stories that everybody told today, they've been very inspiring, because he touched so many lives, and it really was wonderful to know that at the end of his life he met the Lord.
Let's go next. Got a little deal here from all the motorcycle racers. We're up here, we're all gonna sign a little deal for David. Honoring number 99, which are kind of something colors, so we're going to, well, I know you're Suzuki. I'm in this dealership now, I sell anything I want, so. That's right.
Let's go ahead and sign it.
Well, I have little different stories about David being a girl and being around all these guys growing up, and oh my, it was some kind of fun. I have all sisters, and my poor daddy, he wanted a boy. They said the day that I was born, he went back to work and said, another girl? So he took people like David and Tyler under his wing early on, I guess when we were at Broadway Repair Shop. Let him ride his motorcycles, and he, my dad and Nathan Langham and Dr. David Fletcher, organized an Explorer post for the motocross guys, and we had a big old blue bus.
I still got my jersey.
Do you? I've got a bunch of Indy Suzuki shirts, and we moved out onto the loop, and all of these guys and David were his kids just because he loved them all. David was riding one of the bigger bikes, a 250, 400, I don't know which, but, my mom really wasn't involved a lot, but she was around now and then. Well, David had a brand new bike that my dad let him ride, let him race, and it wasn't the first berm he hit, but maybe the third or fourth, he ran over his own leg and broke his leg and wrecked the motorcycle. And my daddy was mad. I never saw him be mad in my life, but he was mad. Well, my mama stepped up and told him, no, you're not gonna be mad at David. He didn't, leave him alone. So he loved my family and all of my crazy sisters. When I got grown and I have one child that is a wild child, and when she was about 19, we went to get tires and wheels and build a tire for her brand new pickup. And so David pulls out all these books. Well, you want this, and I, at that time I didn't really care. She could have what she wanted. And she said, well, I want the big ones that say Dallas Cowboys. David said, no. He said, your mama won't tell you no, but I'll tell you no. There you go, man. And so there's nobody quite like David. He was always so kind and so open-hearted, willing to help just anybody at any time. I heard a lot about you. He really loved you, and I actually have, and I'm sure you guys have stuff left, but I have a little bitty Hot Wheels car that he gave to my daughter when she was like this big. So we pulled it out of the rest of the Hot Wheels, and it has a special spot now up on the mantle with the other things that mean a lot. So he was one of a kind.
We didn't see by the time, he came into our lives. I think David was a man who clearly showed everybody how much they were cared for. He was not great at saying it out loud.
No, in fact, I asked Mom, I was like, should I get up there and just say, like, he's probably one of the grouchiest people I've ever known. And Mom's like, yeah, that's fine. And so I think until maybe I was, 41 now, so maybe until I was like 38, I thought that man's maybe the grumpiest, grouchiest, gripiest person I have ever met in my life. If it's not his way, then it's no way. And it's just like, you couldn't do anything right. And but I think as we aged, and honestly, I think when he started like really pouring into grandkids, we saw what you guys have all talked about, and the tender, soft, wonderful heart that David had.
He was an active service guy. That's why he's taking care of all your car. I don't think I did anything for any of my vehicles until I was 35 years old, and that's only because I moved all the way to the East Coast. And he still would be taking care of it. And you're right, we get in trouble for, why do you slam my car door like that? Or whatever.
Why is your car so dirty all the time?
Is that, who taught you to park? But then
Do you know nothing?
I also know that I turned 16 and I got to take his car out to dinner with my, his truck, I don't even remember what it was. But his car, it was a very detailed list of instructions. But I got to take that out on my 16th birthday. He always took care of all the little things. He was great at a note that you could find when he wasn't there, so he didn't have to have the interaction with it. And then when he became a grandfather, the adventure side that you guys are all talking about started playing out as in the way that he dealt with my kids. They looked forward to going on adventures, which Maddox was going through stuff at the house last night, and he found like, oh, this is my machete from the adventures that we took. I was like, your machete? He's like, yeah, we had to cut stuff down, like every time they were there, he would take them out on an adventure, go on something out in the forest, build a fort, a lot of power tool usage at a very early age. He just, even though he was a man of such few words, he said them when they needed to be said. And he didn't leave this earth clearly without all of us knowing how he felt about us.
Yeah.
It was always very helpful. And I think.
Was he perfect? No, but he was a good man and we're gonna miss him.
Yeah.
Let's go.
We are gonna be okay. I just needed my kids up here for support. I'm looking at my work family back there because they all know that I love speaking in front of anybody. My voice gets all shaky and I get all shaky, but it was important to me. I knew that I couldn't remember what I wanted to say when I got up here, so I did write it down, so y'all bear with me. I sat down to write out what I wanted to say today. And I had such nice, meaningful words about the relentless pursuit of Christ that were just flowing from me as I typed. Then I realized that the words that I had just written were the words that I would want at my celebration of life, and that they were definitely not the words that David would say. You all know that he was not a scripted or a pomp and circumstance kind of guy by any stretch of the imagination. He had absolutely no desire for religion. And I don't either, by the way. He and I had many talks over the years about how he thought that this life was one shot. And when you died, that was it. That's all you got. That was his belief. When you're done here, that's it. I remember one time when our family was going through some very tough battles all at the same time. My dad had just had major health issues going on. Our daughter was fighting breast cancer. David himself was fighting prostate cancer. And we were told that our unborn granddaughter might be born with major disabilities or perhaps not survive at all. They were tough times. I know that David saw the Lord working, healing, and changing all of us through these circumstances. I believe that he trusted in the reality of God then, but David Berry was afraid that if he admitted it, people would expect him to go to church, or not enjoy that beer, or his nightly margarita, or that he would need to pray before every meal. You know, those things that the world says you must do or not do if you're a Christian. All the religious barriers and duties that David wanted no part of. But you can't go through things, good or bad, or even walk outside and look at nature, or consider how the human body is so incredibly and intricately made without recognizing and being affected by the fact that there's obviously a creator of all things, including us.
Amen.
David was affected. He was affected by each of you who told him straight out many times, man, God is real, and I'm praying that you find that out. After one of our talks on this subject just a few weeks ago, when he was still able to stand and move around, we were in the kitchen cooking, which is one of our favorite things to do together. And he left the kitchen and he walked out into our backyard. He was only there for a few minutes, but I saw him look up. And after he came back into the house, he said, okay, it's done. Nothing more, nothing less. Kind of sounds like words from someone else when he had said on the cross, it is finished. And I think David's words have the same meaning. That amazing grace, after 72 years of relentless pursuit, finally had an understanding and a yes from David Berry. I know, and you do too, if you know Jesus, that we will see David again. and I'm hanging on to that. In honor of David and the fact that he now knows that this life is not all there is, would you all please join us in singing about the amazing grace of God? Sally.
Was blind, but now I see.
They said 99.
On the wall, $99 a beer. Take one down.
You guys watch, but you got to subscribe.